It appears that Max Verstappen's Red Bull's rear brake caliper sticking may have been caused by finger difficulty. His first technical retirement from a Formula One race since this same event 2 years ago was likely caused by a suspected incorrectly secured caliper, which also helped Ferrari and Carlos win the Australian Grand Prix. However, all signs point to Carlos being able to battle back, even if the Red Bull had been completely dependable. Albert Park's remaining smooth surface became extremely difficult to calculate the tire equation because of the graining of the front and back tires on both the medium and hard compounds. Similar to last year's event in Las Vegas, when graining was a restriction, the Ferrari proved incredibly fast and reliable. Welcome to F1 Opinion. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. Remember when the race to Verstappen was only lost by an ill-timed safety car for Charles Leclerc? Moreover, this Ferrari is far superior to that vehicle. Carlos used it brilliantly, putting on a performance that was all the more impressive considering his bedridden state following surgery before this past weekend. He went into the race strongly believing that it wouldn't necessarily follow Red Bull's habit of expanding its advantage on race day through superior tire management. Verstappen had only lost pole to him due to a high-speed snap in the 7th gear turn 9-10. The task of graining was being handled expertly by him and the Ferrari. Red Bull had a rough Friday, and even though by the end of qualifying it had come a lot closer to the car's sweet spot, there was still no indication that its graining control would be superior to Ferrari's. The race was decisively decided to be a two-stop when Pirelli switched to the softest compound range. Relatively little energy is fed into the tire's core structure on a track that is still smooth from its 2022 resurfacing and has little for the rubber to bite into, leaving the tread unsupported. As a result, all three compounds' front and back grains have decreased in wear life. This was not a thermal race. This was a wear-limited race. Over the past 3 seasons, the Red Bull has excelled at better managing thermal degradation than other vehicles. Here, that wasn't the problem. A major factor in being able to control that graining was being in clean air. Verstappen won the start and overtook Carlos by a second on the first lap, stating that the balance felt excellent. But Carlos was catching up to him, intending to battle for position, as DRS was available from the second lap on. During the second lap, Verstappen's left rear caliper stuck, creating a handbrake effect. Carlos was able to pass Verstappen on the DRS run-up to turn 9 because of the twitchy moment over the exit curb. Then came the sticky caliper smoke, the enormous heat buildup within the sealed cake tins, and you most likely witnessed the small explosion as the pressure burst those jars as he was pulling into the pit lane to retire. From there, Carlos found it to be fairly simple. He was able to maintain a good pace and take care of the tires in clean air. Leclerc was being held off by Lando Norris in a slower McLaren, while Oscar Piastri's other McLaren was chasing closely and posing a threat to undercut Leclerc. Thus, on lap 9, Ferrari was forced to pull Leclerc in early, allowing Norris to stay out, while Piastri brought the Ferrari in last. This left Leclerc at a bigger disadvantage to Carlos, while undermining him past Norris. Carlos was able to continue running until he was obliged to react to Norris's stop because of McLaren's decision to drive Norris as long as possible in order to enhance his tire lead against Leclerc in the following stint. That was the 15th lap. This indicates that Carlos came back on hard tires 6 laps later and more than 2 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Ferrari gave the order to hold station at this point. Not that it had to, given that Leclerc was in unclean air and at a disadvantage due to his age. That is the extent of Carlos's dominance over this race. He was outpacing everyone else in terms of speed and tire degradation. He was in a very great spot with the automobile. Sergio Perez's race to 5th, rather than his usual 2nd, supports the argument that Ferrari was truly lightning fast in this instance. From his penalty-imposed 6th position on the grid, he made fantastic first progress and passed the Mercedes drivers with incredible reports of the car's performance. Only after Fernando Alonso started on hards and ran long enough to take advantage of a VSC for Lewis Hamilton's broken-down Mercedes did he fall behind Fernando's Aston Martin. With Alonso now on the mediums and driving them very carefully to keep the graining at bay, Perez was overtaking the Aston Martin at a pace of about 1 second per lap. Alonso wanted to use the advantage of the DRS to get away from Russell, whose Mercedes was presumably marginally faster. Perez, though, later lost that early tempo. He lost about 20 points of downforce, about 0.2 seconds, as a result of picking up a tear-off visor strip that got stuck in a section of the underfloor as he passed the Aston. He posed no threat to the McLarens after that. Although McLaren was fast enough to maintain pressure on Leclerc in this situation, they lost up far too much time in the DRS zones in just one lap. It persisted in its two-pronged assault on Leclerc, but Carlos was out, and by the second set of stops, the original 2S lead had grown to nearly 8 seconds. After undercutting Norris with his previous stop, Piastri was told to switch back to avoid wasting the latter's tire advantage, while Norris tried to reconcile with Leclerc. Leclerc pitted early in stint 2 to avoid the Norris undercut threat after his first set of hards caused him a plethora of issues. Despite having tires that were 6 circuits older, he had no trouble keeping the McLaren behind him in his final set, which was significantly superior. Before Russell's crash activated the VSC, he was even able to record the fastest lap of the race. After losing Perez's DRS boost and slipstream, Russell had managed to catch Alonso. When Alonso decided to brake for turn 6 100 meters earlier than at any other point in the race, then release and reapply the brakes. Russell was all over the Aston going into the penultimate lap. It took Russell by surprise, and along with the soiled air, it made him slide through the gravel and forcefully into the tire barrier, flipping the car over. That was the final straw in a depressing Mercedes weekend. Russell qualified faster than Hamilton, who was even unable to make it to Q3. Russell was sporadically fast in the practices, but half a second slower in the real event. In order to overtake the slower vehicles in front of him, which included Yuki Tsunoda's RB and the 2 Aston Martins, Hamilton was equipped with the extremely uncommon soft. In an attempt to make up for his lack of performance, Hamilton might have pitted early and continued the race on the optimal hard-hard combination if there had been an early safety car. Before the power unit failed on lap 17, he pushed himself past Tsunoda and defeated Stroll off the starting line. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for new upcoming videos of Formula One. Thanks for watching!